All right, so we just finished our recap of the Giants versus Jets game. Let's talk about this 53-man roster before the final cuts actually commence, right? We've done 3 of these now, 53-man roster predictions. Now in a few days, we'll actually see the results of them, see how close we are, see how far we are.
The first one's definitely going to be closest.
The last one we did was before pre-training camp, and there were definitely a few things we had to change. I just remember one off the top of my head. Now looking at the new one, we had Jeremiah Hall on there, and he's already been, I believe, cut, right? So that's one mistake down the drain, and we'll have to see. But we got 53 guys on here. We made it happen. Let's talk about our 53-man roster predictions before they actually happen, our final one for 2022. Alex, I will start us off with quarterback, and then we'll react. We'll do that for each position. Daniel Jones, Tyrod Taylor, Davis Webb. My reactions, I thought this was going to happen already. There were some debates early on when we were doing these that, will they do 2 quarterbacks? Will they not have Davis Webb making it? Alex, in those times, convinced me Davis Webb was going to make it, and then as we've moved on through the preseason, I'm now confirmed that he will make the roster. Why? Preseason superstar, man. I mean, another guy who's really performed for the Giants here. Came from the Bills. Very good stuff he's performed so far in the preseason. He's gotten reps in training camp. Why am I still talking about the quarterback position? We know it's going to be 3. We know it's going to be these 3 guys. If it's 2, everyone will be in shock, but I don't think that will happen.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Obviously, I agree with you. Otherwise, I wouldn't have agreed when we made the list. But yes, I think 3 quarterbacks. Webb has been playing well in preseason as well. So I don't think it's really that big of an issue. And I think the Giants will roll with 3 quarterbacks. Now we're moving to the running back room. We were really debating here because the first 2 guys, Barkley and Breida, have kind of been like these guys are definitely going to be on the team. And then you have the guys, Antonio Williams, Gary Brightwell, and Jashawn Corbin. And out of those 3, one of them had to be cut. And we unfortunately had to go with Jashawn Corbin. So Williams and Brightwell make our roster. And hopefully Corbin, despite his performance against the Jets, still makes our practice squad and doesn't get picked up from there. But those are our 4 running backs. Unfortunately, we couldn't do 5.
Yeah, 5 is just too many. But I would like to say that Corbin, there's definitely still a high shot he makes this roster, and if he does, I don't fault us for that, Alex, because you really could kind of put these guys in a the lottery machine with all the balls in there, and really just pick one of them because or 2 of them because it's really up in the air there between Williams, Brightwell, and Corbin for which 2 out of the 3 make it there. With that being said, I guess we can go to the wide receivers now. There's 7 that make it for us. Kenny Golladay, Sterling Shepard, Kadarius Toney, and Wan'Dale Robinson. The the guarantees, I guess you can say. I think there's maybe a chance Kadarius Toney, this is the pessimistic mind I had, that Kadarius Toney goes to IR as the injury-prone wide receiver he's been so far in these first 2 seasons in the NFL. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Just something in the back of my head. And then the guy that has been debated by Alex and I for so long, Darius Slayton. I think at this point, with not really there haven't been a lot of the back of the depth chart, backups, wide receivers. I know I'm having trouble speaking, that have really stepped up and done a lot to earn that spot. And then also with the injury to Colin Johnson, which really sucks. And then also Robert Foster, right? Who got injured or he just got cut? I forget now.
Both.
Whatever it is. Yeah. So I think that it's going to be Darius Slayton that makes this roster. And then, we both think that. And then adding to that, Richie James and David Sills. The Army is strong. David Sills, we have him making the roster.
That connection with Daniel Jones, man, it's special. It's certainly special. And David Sills, we have him making the roster. I think that group of 7 wide receivers is definitely going to be a nice group for the Giants and provides enough depth if there's any injuries. Tight end, I'm going to go through really quickly because they're really the only three options. Daniel Bellinger, Chris Myrick, and Austin Allen. The only other tight end on the roster is Tanner Hudson, and he just got signed a couple days ago, so we don't think he's going to make the roster. So those are our three tight ends. And because that's so short, I'm going to do O-line as well. So we have Andrew Thomas, Evan Neal, Mark Glowinski, John Feliciano, Josh Azudu, Shane Lemieux, assuming he doesn't go on IR, Max Garcia, and Devery Hamilton. So that's our 8 O-linemen. We're considering Jamil Douglas, but he's just looked awful in preseason, if we're being completely honest. And with that, you don't have a pure, like a solid, I guess, swing tackle, like a natural swing tackle, but both Azudu and Devery Hamilton have both played that position. So gives you some flexibility there, but I think that could be a position where you look on waivers to see who gets cut for a possible swing tackle. So look out for that on the offensive line. Nick Gates and Matt Peart will both start the season on the PUP list.
And Alex, I think we both agree to the fact that offensive lineman and cornerback are the top 2 positions the Giants should definitely look for on waivers when that cut point happens on Tuesday night. They should start looking right at 401, really, because they're thin. I mean, cornerback, when we get to it, is the thinnest. It's so, like, one guy gets injured, one of those top 3-4 guys gets injured, we're down to nobody. Literally, like, no one's going to fill this. They're going to have someone out of position come play cornerback.
The most important person on this roster is Adoree Jackson, without question. If he gets injured, we're screwed. We're just screwed.
Exactly. And to your point, Alex, what he means by that is not importance like, oh, the best player. Like, importance like, if he gets injured, we are season down. There's no one to cover good wide receivers. That's what we mean by importance, like literal importance to the roster itself. Adoree Jackson is number 1 on there. Yes, you are completely right.
Here's what I would say. If you had to choose, if someone told me you either have to play without Daniel Jones or without Adoree Jackson throughout the entire season, I'd say no Daniel Jones. That's how desperate I think the need for Adoree Jackson is.
Sure. And I think for O-line, it's more like if someone gets injured, we need a backup. For Adoree Jackson, or for these cornerbacks, it's like we need someone who can slot into the starter role because they might have to do that week 1. Because, like, honestly, we only have, just giving a preview, we only have 5 cornerbacks making the roster. If someone's tired, they've played 3 plays in a row, and a team's driving down the field, someone needs to switch. They need a water break. They need a breath. So with only 5 guys, if 3 of them are on at a time, 2 of them might need a sub. That's where we're thinking of. But anyway, you went through the offensive line, and we're talking a little bit too much about it here, but this is a fun discussion. Let's go to defensive line. Dexter Lawrence, Leonard Williams, Justin Ellis, DJ Davidson, and Jalen Holmes make it. Defensive line was a little bit of a battle, and it still is technically a battle until the cut period happens. The guy you don't see on this list is Ryder Anderson, who made a few plays in preseason. Wasn't really talked about during training camp, but one of the, if not the favorite, kind of like underground name guy for the Talking Giants crew. And unfortunately, we don't have him making the roster. He could make the practice squad. I don't think any team would claim him, but those are the 5 we have at D-line.
Yeah, I certainly think that's a positive group. You've got 2 really complete nose tackle kind of guys with Davidson and Ellis. Dexter Lawrence could play there in a pinch. And then Holmes and Leonard Williams, more defensive end types. So really a nice diverse group out of those 5. So like that for the Giants. Moving to linebacker, we have 10. 6 more edge types and 4 interior guys. So Kayvon Thibodeau for the edge. Azeez Ojulari, Quincy Roche, Ellerson Smith, Jahad Ward, and O'Shane Zimenez will make the roster, in our opinion. So that means no Tomon Fox, who's my favorite. I think he has a chance. Don't rule him out yet. No Cam Brown. And anyone else I'm thinking of? No, I don't think so. So those are the 2 main omissions from that group. And then interior guys, we have Blake Martinez, Tate Crowder, Micah McFadden. And then if you look on our roster, there's not really any other interior guys except for Austin Caletro, the preseason Hall of Famer. So I think he makes the roster. We have him on as our 4th guy. I think it's possible he doesn't make the roster. Maybe a guy like Carter Coughlin makes it ahead of him. But Carter Coughlin was playing 4th team reps today, so I don't think that's really realistic. And, it's it's definitely that third spot now that Darian Beavers went down. It's not the best, but I could see the Giants possibly rolling with only 3 interior guys, possibly. In particular, if they went with like a Cam Brown instead of Ellerson Smith, where he has the flexibility to play inside and outside. So that's certainly a possibility there, but that's what we have of the 10, 6 edge, 4 linebackers, interior guys.
Yeah, and Alex, I can touch on 2 points here. I'll touch on Austin Caletro first and talk about how really when it comes to him, we already discussed this where it's like, I already talked about it earlier in the episode. Is it going to be how, Austin Caletro, he really shows what does this front office or coaching staff value more? What do they value more? Do they value preseason games more? Do they value training camp more? And that's that. And then what was the other thing I wanted to talk about? Shoot, now it just slipped my mind. There was something else that we discussed.
Unacceptable.
Oh, I'm ready now. Are you good to go to DBs?
Yeah.
Defensive backs? Okay, so we have 5 cornerbacks. This is where I was going to touch on. Adoree Jackson, Aaron Robinson, Cordell Flott, Darnay Holmes, and Zion Gilbert, meaning no Darren Evans. Earlier in this episode, Alex's one shock to make the roster was Darren Evans. Now, between him and Gilbert, I think it's like, again, another like rock, paper, scissors match, like who could definitely make it. Could both of them? Yes, I could definitely see the Giants having 2 cornerbacks, or having both of those cornerbacks making them having 6, whatever it is. We have these 5 guys, assuming, if we're the Giants front office, we're the coaching staff, we're assuming we're going to have these guys and then immediately start looking for cornerbacks on the waiver wire. Am I right with that, Alex? That's kind of how we set
I
this
would
up
think
here
so.
with these 5 guys.
Whoever makes the roster besides the first 4 that you talked about, besides Jackson, Robinson, Flott, Holmes, I think all those guys are probably not going to make the roster anyway. Because Zion Gilbert, I was cringing inside, listening to you say his name in our 53-man roster. How he's been playing has just been not good. Neither has Darren. I mean, none of these corners have been playing good. They're all terrible, or at least not very good. They're not all terrible. Okay, they're in the NFL. They can't be that bad, but they're not great. Okay, you're laughing at me. They can't be great.
Yeah, I mean, you're going a little harsh with it. I would just say those 2 guys, anyone behind Darnay Holmes, right, those top 4, Adoree Jackson, Aaron Robinson, Cordell Flott, Darnay Holmes, if you're behind those names, you're at risk of getting cut after making the roster. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, I would agree. It's not the best play. Let's just say that.
Yeah, let's be a little kinder with our word selection here. Going to our safeties now, we have 4 making the roster. We actually, I think, both in the OTAs won our predictions, and then in the pre-training camp, we only have 3. Now we're switching it to 4. Am I right about that? I think we only have 3.
No, we had 4.
Now switching it to 4.
No, we had 4.
We did?
We had 4.
We just had a different players because someone really liked a player that we'll mention. Xavier McKinney, Julian Love, Dane Melton, and Trenton Thompson make the roster. Thompson having a big day today against the Jets when we're recording this Sunday night, and really has played a lot in preseason. You've heard his name here and there in practices as well, so I don't think that's a question mark. Dane Melton, the only question mark is where he's going to be when it comes to injured. I think did he break his forearm? Was it his forearm?
Collarbone.
Shoulder. Collarbone. Thank you. Broke his collarbone. And he's questionable to be back by week 1. Now, because the NFL season doesn't start until a couple weeks from now, they have off Labor Day weekend. He could be ready in 2 weeks. We don't know. So. But why put him on the PUP list and put him out for the first 4 weeks, meaning he cannot play the first 4 games and he has to wait? I think they rather, for this young guy who has a lot of promising abilities, put him on the roster and just kind of wait it out. And hopefully he's back by week 1, if not by week 2, if not by week 3, instead of having him out the first 4 games, putting him on the PUP list. So it's okay, I think, taking the roster spot for him.
Yeah, I agree. With safeties, Yusuf Corker, he was my guy. I hoped he would make the roster. Doesn't look like it. He was getting 3rd team reps, and he was definitely behind Thompson. So I don't think he's going to make it. I think he's probably going to go on the practice squad, but certainly a little bit upset about that. And then the most important part of the roster, special teams. This, I'm sure no one can predict this, but we've got Graham Gano, the kicker. We've got Casey Kreider, the long snapper. And we've got the The leg. I don't know. I was like trying to think of a funny nickname. Jamie Gillan. He had a bomb of a punt today.
He's the
Scottish Hammer
stuff.
Scottish Hammer. There you go. But he's the leg. I just made him the leg. He's like the fake Greg the leg.
He's the opposite special teams Greg the leg.
Yeah, he's a punter Greg
he's not
the
kicking,
leg.
There you go. I don't know, Alex. It could have been the biggest question mark on the. Maybe you were going Ryan Santoso. We have Graham Gano You're predicting that your players on your favorite team are going to get longer injuries than they should, and you're going to predict Ryan Santoso makes the roster. Who knows? No, we're very much hoping that Graham Gano, who's been extremely solid for the Giants kicking, literally. We hope he's there week 1, all back from the concussion. We wish him well. And all the players who are injured for the Giants, we wish you well. Seriously, please. Players.
Tell Mara to fix the turf.
I don't even know what to say. I mean, rest up. I hope all the Giants players get better, and we're all ready by week 1 for action against the Titans.